So for this session, we're going to look at bringing a point cloud into Civil 3D and utilizing that point cloud to create things like a surface, break lines, and points to be used with inside Civil 3D. So there's a couple different methods for doing so. You can create a tin surface from your points within the RCS or RCP format. You can create a surface from several point clouds. You can select and define an area, and you can filter out non-ground points to create that surface from. You can also start extracting geometry. It's more of a manual process. You can use feature extraction. You can use the Kogo points and create your Kogo points. And you can draw and create feature lines, 3D polylines, and so forth from that point cloud. So let's move over to Civil 3D and look how easy it is to work with point clouds within Autodesk Civil 3D. So we have our point cloud within Civil 3D. We first inserted it from the Insert tab, Point Cloud panel, and the Attach. And we want to first create a surface from this point cloud. So I'm going to select my point cloud. If your point cloud is classified, you can turn on and off the classification. So if we can look at this point cloud, you can see that it is classified. We have our ground shots, our non-ground shots, some vegetation removed. We can use the color mapping option to take off or turn off some of these things. So if I want to get rid of low vegetation, buildings, and a few of these points here, I can simply turn them off and select OK. That way when I create my surface, that point cloud does not have some of those points that I don't want in that surface. So with that point cloud selected, I'm then going to go to the ribbon and from the Civil 3D panel, choose Create Surface from Point Cloud. We're going to name this, I'm going to call it Existing Ground. Our style, we're going to use a contour style of 1 and 5 background, so an existing ground contour style. I'm going to select Next. Point cloud selection. We can create a surface from our entire point cloud or multiple point clouds. But as you can see, this point cloud has millions and millions of points. Okay? And this one almost 200 million points. So what we're going to do, I'm going to select here in the selected area, I'm going to choose point cloud. I'm going to remove this because we're going to define a new area. So I'm going to remove that from the selection list and I'm going to define an area that we're going to create our surface from. And we want to use the kind of the focal area of our project here, and I'm just going to polygon an area. It's going to window that area, and it's going to bring up that same dialog box to show us how many points are now in that selected area. So as you can see, we've selected an area with much less amount of points. Still a lot of points to bring into Civil 3D, so we're going to do a little bit of filtering. Right now, the distance between points is about 1/100th of a foot. I'm going to change that, and I just want to do a grid of maybe 2.5 feet. And you can see that our points drastically went down to 653,000 points. You can do a different number here, so maybe I'm going to go 5 points. And again, our points are a lot less, a lot easier to manage inside Civil 3D. So we're going to go with that one. Okay, we've defined a new area for the points to be from, and we have changed the distance between points to 5. I'm going to select Next. Now there's 3 methods to filter this out, these non-ground points. We've got the planar average, Kriging interpolation, and we have no filter. I'm going to select here the Kriging option, and you can kind of see that it kind of gives you a display of what may happen inside your surface. No filter is just going to take all the points that you have there, filtered out to that 5-foot grid. And in this case, we want to use no filter. We already have a classified point cloud. We've removed all the vegetation and some of the buildings and other items. So we want to go no filter and simply select Create Surface. It's going to process in the background. I'm going to hit Close. You can continue to work while that processes. So depending on the size of your surface, this may take a few moments. This may be pretty automatic. You can see here The bottom right says surface created. Click here to zoom to. I'm going to unload my point cloud just to show the surface. So I'm going to go to my XREFs, right click, and unload. And let's look at a top view and do a zoom extents for our surface. So you can see that quickly we brought in that point cloud, we removed a lot of the non-ground shots, and we created this surface. So that's one way of working with the point clouds. If we want to extract some feature lines or draw some points in there, there's a couple other options that we can do. So let's look at those options. I'm going to reload my point cloud. I'm going to turn my surface to a no display style so we can have a little bit more room to work here. Okay, let's look at a different view. I'm going to turn my point cloud back to the point cloud colors. So the scan colors. That way we can kind of see what we're working with here. And I'm just going to crop out a small portion of this point cloud. So with that point cloud selected, go rectangular crop, and maybe we want to focus on this intersection. And I'm going to rotate that, so I'm going to see this in a 3D view. Okay. You can see this works really well in Civil 3D. Now we can draw our feature lines or our break lines. So I'm just going to draw a line here along the edge of pavement. So I'm going to move that back to a top view. Let's zoom in here to our edge of pavement. Multiple options. We could do 2D polyline. We could do a 3D polyline. We could do a feature line. First thing I want to check is my O-snap. So down here on the bottom, I'm going to choose my O-snap settings. And in those settings, there's a 3D object snap. You want to make sure that 3D object snap is turned on and that you can select here on the point cloud different options to snap to within that point cloud. Most common, I'm going to just use the node. So as long as node is selected, I'll be able to select and snap to XYZ of this point cloud. So I'm going to hit OK here. Next step, I'm going to go to my Home tab, Feature Line, Create Feature Line. We're going to put this on the feature line site. We're going to put this style. We're going to use the basic feature line style. On the display tab, I may want to see this show up a little bit better. So let's turn that yellow so that we can see that. And maybe we do a line weight just a little bit larger so this will display a little bit better for us. So now I'm in the feature line command. You can see that blue glyph that's popping up everywhere I'm going. That is picking a point within that point cloud. So everywhere that blue is, it's snapping to the node of an elevation, X, Y, and Z of that point cloud. So I can simply come in here and I can find the edge of the pavement. We'll just go here. It says specify elevation. So you can see here it's picking up the elevation of that point cloud. I'm just going to hit enter. So somewhat of a manual process. I can walk down that road, keep selecting the elevation, hitting enter, 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 and so forth. Okay. Let's turn the plan view to something a little bit different so you can see that. Okay. So that point cloud and that feature line, if I rotate this to a different view, you can see it is now draped on that point cloud. So I can quickly and easily draw those feature lines in there as break lines, add those to the surface. I can extract objects like my paint lines, my curb and gutter, anything that I want to draw in from that point cloud. I can utilize Civil 3D, whether it's a feature line, 3D polyline, or 2D polyline, to start extracting objects from that point cloud. So we did our surface and we did our feature line. We can do points as well. Anything in there. So that point cloud is so robust, so rich with data, we can start extracting how much information we want from that point cloud.